Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, brought to you by BetDSI, and I'm your host, Mitchell Renz. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MitchellRenz365 for the latest Raiders news, rumors, and basically everything Raider coverage. I have a fun little segment here for you guys, and it's 7 free agents that the Raiders need to resign in 2019. But before I get into my 7 players, I want to give you a little bit of background information on some free agents that the Raiders have. So, an exclusive rights free agent, or ERFA, is a player with only 1 or 2 accrued seasons. Their rights are exclusive to the team that applies to the tender. So basically, the Raiders offer them a contract, and it's take it or leave it. A restricted free agent is any player with an expiring contract who has exactly 3 accrued NFL seasons. And a UFA is basically they have the right to sign with any team possible, and there's 23 of them, and most of these players are going to be unrestricted free agents, but they also have restricted free agents. Now, you got to look down there at the bottom. The Raiders right now in 2019 have $7.3 million. It's the 5th most in cap space. Now, I expect that number to go up because there's going to be some players that get cut, maybe like a Donald Penn, and I would expect that number to maybe be around $95 million, so I'm not really all that worried about money in general. The Raiders have some money, but let's be real. We need to re-sign some players. We need to get the ball rolling here in 2019. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, brought to you by BetDSI, and I'm your host, Mitchell Renz. Make sure you subscribe below to youtube.com/the Raiders Report, where I'm going to be breaking out a whole bunch of Raiders news, rumors, and my famous Raider Nation rumors. But I want to do a little bit more on today's show. I want to give a shout out to my loyal subscribers, the people who have my back when sometimes commenters come in and get a little bit rough. So John, shout out to you, man, for always having my back. Machiavel Raider, shout out to you. Thirsty Craig, you and I we're on the same level there. Matthew, my man, much love on the comments, always. 27 Raider Man, always sliding into my DMs, so shout out to you. And guess what? I got 5 more. Andrew Coed, he's been dropping some sick Raider Nation rumors. Much love, man. David Yost is one of the first people who always comments on one of my videos. What do you do for a living? Dead Raider, always in there. Much appreciated. Eric Hayes, I guarantee I'm getting a like, a heart from you, so much love to you, my man. And then Kenny Purvis is a new subscriber, and I'm glad that he's coming along for the ride. And remember, subscribe below, youtube.com/Raiders Report, and maybe you'll see yourself on the #1 show on YouTube. All right, let's head on in now to my free agents that the Raiders need to resign in 2019. And this first one's a good one. It's Denzelle Good. And he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at age 28. And I think when I looked at his season, he filled in for Gabe Jackson, who was going, dealing with some injuries, but claimed off the waivers from the Colts, and then just 2 weeks later, insert into Gabe Jackson's role, which isn't a very easy role. And in the final 3 games of the season, I really saw what I liked from the dude. I mean, he's 6'5", 345-pounder, and the offensive line struggled a little bit. Let's just be real. Now, you could definitely point the finger at Tom Cable. However, I think Denzelle is, at worst-case scenario, a player who could be a fill-in player in case there's another injury. Just saying, I think Denzelle Good would be a good guy to have on our team in 2019. If you want to bet on the Super Bowl, there's one place to do it. It's at BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet and use our promo code LIVE120 for 120% deposit bonus. But, Raider Nation, you see free NFL jerseys? Now I get that there's not a Derek Carr one on there, but guess what? You can actually still get a Derek Carr jersey. You can get any Raider jersey that you want, or if you want one of those 5, 6 on screen, we can hook you up there. Sign up and deposit with MasterCard or Bitcoin. If you use Bitcoin, you're going to get 150% deposit bonus, and then just DM ChatSports on Twitter. So chatsports.com/bet. DM us on Twitter at ChatSports on Twitter, and then when you sign up and deposit, we'll get hooked up with an NFL jersey. Next player that I think the Raiders need to resign in 2019 is Erik Harris. And when I look at Erik Harris' season as a whole, there's got some ups and downs to it, right? And he's going to be 29 years old, but I like what I've seen. I think he's just one of those Gruden grinders, and all it's going to take is a tender to bring him back, which I think is really good, especially for a player who played a lot better down the end of the season. And when I watch any, I'll say Raider throughout this entire season, the beginning was bumpy. I mean, let's just be real. But there was a lot of turnover. There's always a lot of turnover when you're switching coaches. And when I saw Erik Harris, he kind of didn't play all that much in the beginning and then really started to become a more reliable Raider down the end of the year. And he's also only 29. When you look at his 2018 stats, 49 tackles, he had a QB hit, 7 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. Now, he's not going to be a world beater by any means, but he's still at least, I think, a reliable option on a team that just is going to have a lot of turnover in the next few years. So he's number 6 on my list, but I want to know from you because, let's be real, this show, not about me, it's about y'all. Should the Raiders re-sign Erik Harris? I want you to type Y for yes, type N for no. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, literally anywhere that you see this video, Y for yes, N for no. Next player here, and I think this is the one where I'm going to get a little bit of controversy because this is the best argument probably that we're going to have on the show. It's Jalen Richard, and I like Jalen Richard, and there's going to be the people who say, why not Doug Martin? Well, I see Jalen Richard, and I think he's going to be the cheaper option, and I can guarantee he's going to be the younger option than Dougie Fresh. Now, Martin played well. He's definitely played well near the end of the year, and if you take what he did over the last 10 games, it actually gets pretty close to 1,000 yards on a 16-game basis. But the reason why I love Richard is 25 years old, a great pass-catching running back, and can I get some Chris Warren love? I love me some Chris Warren. I think he could be a main focal point running back for the Raiders next year, and you tell me I can get Jalen Richard and Chris Warren, I'll take that over just Doug Martin. So that's why I think that they need to resign Jalen Richard. And when you look at what he did last year, 55 carries, 259 yards, 4.7 yards per carry and a touchdown. But also, he was definitely one of the most reliable pass catchers for the Raiders. In fact, he was second on the team in receptions, and he was at least a check down guy for once in a while when Derek was getting ripped apart because the offensive line was just having it blow up. So I talked about Richard. I talked about Martin a little bit, but I want to know from you, who should the Raiders re-sign? I want you to type R for Jalen Richard, M for Martin, or B for both. Okay? R, M, B. And if you want to know what I think, DM me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365. My next player here that I think the Raiders need to re-sign in 2019 is Dwayne Harris. And this dude is just a special teams weapon. And at the end of the day, I'm looking to have as many weapons as possible on our team. And he's going to be a restricted free agent, and he's at age 31, and he's going to be the second oldest player that you're going to see on this list. But football IQ, I don't think football IQ gets talked about enough, and there's just certain players who have it, and there's certain players who don't. Dwayne Harris has the football IQ. This is his third team. He knows what it needs to get done, and he's just dynamic in special teams. Kick return, punt return. There's a reason why it's called special teams. You need special players, and it makes a big difference. And I don't know about you, but I remember sitting there on Christmas Eve or December 23rd, whenever it was, and he returned that electric kick for the Raiders. Incredible. Crushed my fantasy football season hopes, but absolutely electric. And in 2018, when he was returning punts, he's deadly. He was averaging 14.1 yards per return. He had a touchdown, which I just said, 20 returns, 281 yards. Dwayne Harris is an electric player, and people just don't want to kick him the ball. Then on kick returns in general, 29 returns, 663 yards, 22.9 yards is an average. Dwayne Harris, when he touches the ball, the offense or the defense on the other team, their special teams coordinator, he holds his breath because he's that electric, and that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love Dwayne Harris. He looks good in silver and black too, and if you think I look good in silver and black, it's because Dom's making me wear my black tie and my silver suit, but it all looks good because of Mizzen+Main. And if you guys want to look as good as me, go to www.comfortable.af to see for yourself, because these shirts are indeed comfortable as F. And unfortunately, I don't have any tampons on this read, but I do bleed silver and black. Next one coming up here, Johnathan Hankins. And I like Hankins. He's a solid run clogger. I mean, let's just be real. And one of the things that I want to see Hankins do is kind of mold Maurice Hurst a little bit. And I like Mo Hurst, and I think you could argue he was one of the better players for the Raiders this year, especially on defense. But I just don't trust Eddie Vanderdoes. And it's one of those things, like, I think you could trust him. Trusting him is comparable to trusting, I guess, like a Patriots ball boy. I just don't want to do it at the end of the day. And I just have seen Eddie. He's been injured. He's tore his ACL 2 times. I want to move on from him, and I like Hankins a lot. He's 27, a player who had a lot of promise coming out of the NFL. He struggled a little bit with the Colts, but I think he found his way a little bit with the Raiders in 2018, and 36 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 QB hits. And yes, I understand he didn't have any sacks, but this dude was getting hit with double teams because at the end of the day, Arden Key, Mo Hurst, they had these other players who a little bit younger, and I just think they were trying to eat up Hankins, but I think Hankins is a really solid run clogger who, if we get a little bit more talented options around him, I think he could be a solid player for the Raiders in 2019. Breaking news. The Raiders had only 13 sacks last year, and I get the fact that it sucks to say that. How many sacks are the Raiders going to have in 2019? I'm hoping we add some extra players in the draft and on free agency. If you want to check out my top pass rush free agents, go back to my previous video on the Oakland Raiders Report, which you guys can find at youtube.com/Raiders Report. Humble brag there. It's one of my better ones. But how many sacks for the Raiders in 2019? If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, I just want you to comment below. And if you want to know what I think, right below, DM me at MitchellRenz365. My number 2 Raider on my list here is Daryl Worley, and he's young. And this is one of the reasons why I really like him. And at age 23, the Raiders are going to start building around their young talent. Now, Gruden brought in all these older players. And I think at first we were kind of scratching our heads a little bit like, yo, John, you realize these guys could have like Life Alert or AARP soon, right? But I think it's one of those reasons why they did that is because they're trying to train some of these younger players. And when you're looking at what's going forward, I think it was a big reason why we took in a lot of these veterans. And Worley, sure, he had some bumps in the road last year and whatnot, but he really started to play well for the Raiders, especially out of the slot near the end of the year. And I think the Raiders do invest in either a corner or in the draft or in free agency. But if Worley can be our slot corner, I'd be all about that. And at age 23, I think he's starting to just develop into his own. So Garrett Conley, Daryl Worley, it'd be a dynamic duo either way. 33 tackles for Worley last season, 3 tackles for a loss, 7 pass breakups, and 1 interception. I like this dude a lot, but as I always say on the show, it's not about me, and I want to take you guys back to school, right? Grade Worley's season, A, B, C, D, or F. I want you to grade it, okay? And if you want to know what I think, slide in my DMs, Instagram, Twitter, doesn't matter, at MitchellRenz365. I'm going to give BetDSI an A grade because they have hooked us up with the best promo code on the internet. And if you want to bet on NFL games, basically the Super Bowl is what we got left, go to chatsports.com/bet and use our promo code LIVE120. When you sign up and deposit, use MasterCard or be an overachiever, use Bitcoin and get a 150% deposit bonus. So you put down $100 in Bitcoin, you're going to get $150 for free. And then DM us on Twitter at ChatSports, and we're going to hook you up with an NFL jersey of your choice. If you want a Brady for the Super Bowl, if you want a Jared Goff for the Super Bowl, perhaps, or just get yourself a Derek Carr jersey, we'll hook you up. Thanks to BetDSI. My number 1 player that the Raiders need to bring back in 2019, it's Jared Cook. And I absolutely love Cook, and I understand he's 32 years old. And I understand I've already sat here and said that I think that the Raiders are trying to be a little bit younger. Here's the thing. Jared Cook is the safety blanket for Derek Carr. Jared Cook led the Raiders with 896 receiving yards this past year in 2018, and he was Derek Carr's main option the year before that. I get that Jared Cook's had an up and down career, but I think he's finally coming into his own, and the dude still looks pretty freaking good to me. And when I watch him play, him and Derek are linked up, almost as good as what we're linked up here on this show. And that's why he's my number 1 target. He saw 101 targets last season, 68 catches, 896 yards, and 6 touchdowns. At the end of the day, I'm thinking about what the Raiders can do to help Derek Carr develop into a quarterback, and I think Jared Cook is a crucial part in the development of Derek Carr starting to merge better with his young wide receivers. Now, I've heard rumors that they could draft Noah Fant. I like Noah Fant coming out of Iowa, but Jared Cook to me is Carr's safety blanket, and if he's going to ultimately help Derek Carr develop into this new offense, he's the number 1 free agent to re-sign in 2019. If you're just joining us, I'm going to do a nice little recap here of my top free agents that the Raiders need to re-sign. I got Denzelle Good, right guard. Erik Harris at age 29. Let's bring him back. Jalen Richard, who's with me? Jalen Richard, Chris Warren duo over Doug Martin? I say hell yeah. Dwayne Harris, kick returner, punt return. Dude's an absolute Swiss Army knife. And then my top 3 free agents that the Raiders need to bring back. Johnathan Hankins there, defensive tackle, clogging up the middle at age 27. Daryl Worley, nice young cornerback at age 23. And Jared Cook, like a wine. He's just getting better and better with time, and I love me some Jared Cook. So those are my top 7. Who's the top free agent that the Raiders need to re-sign? I want to know from you. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, I want you to comment below who's the top free agent that the Oakland Raiders need to re-sign in 2019. Raider Nation, what's going on? Is this the number 1 Raiders channel on YouTube? For Chucky Heads, believe it, baby. And if you haven't already, subscribe right here. I'm giving you Chucky Heads, news, rumors, Raider Nation rumors. And look at this, I'm making your life easier. Check out my next video. Thanks for watching, and go Raiders.